So, Sister Location is confusing, right? Don't get me wrong, the game isn't confusing in the sense that it's a complete mess like Security Breach.
Oh no, he got too much juice. Yes, please, give me in, Freddy!
Nor is the story unsolvably convoluted like FNAF 4 was. To be completely fair to Sister Location, the story was actually pretty simple, and at the time, the most straightforward plot we'd gotten. I mean, it was also the first plot we'd gotten outside of the usual, you are a night guard at Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, but Sister Location's story wasn't the confusing part. The confusing part was all of the new information it threw at us out of nowhere. Confirmation of Purple Guy's name, the return of Mike Schmidt, more deaths, potentially more missing children, and most importantly of all, Remnant. I will attempt to explain all of this later, but basically we learned that Afton had built animatronics to kidnap and kill children in order to experiment with Remnant. Today I not only aim to answer why he was experimenting with Remnant, but also to ask the question, what if he wasn't just experimenting with Remnant? Maybe this whole operation was even bigger than we could have ever imagined. Ahoy there, tail waggers, my name is Tori, and you are watching me. This is my channel, and, you're watching it. Happy Halloween! That's if I get this out for October. I don't know if I'll have like a Halloween special or something this year, but if you're watching this in November, then probably not. If not, just consider this the Halloween video for this year. Sorry, guys. Aww. I know the audio is terrible as usual, but I'll try to make sure I have a microphone for next video. Anyway, as I explained in the intro, this video will focus heavily on Sister Location and FNAF 4. However, there will also be some Secret of the Mimic sprinkled in when appropriate. Before we get into the theory, I'd like to, as usual, politely ask you to like the video. It helps a ton, and if you change your mind, you can always undo it later. Don't worry about subscribing, trust me, I will earn your subscription by the end of the video. So we know that Afton was experimenting with Remnant. For anyone who doesn't know, Remnant is basically possessed metal. The book seems to suggest that it's not a spirit possessing the metal, but rather the memories of the person. Actually, FNAF AR shows Remnant as just a f***ing glowing orb, so I don't really know, why is Remnant so inconsistent? Who wrote this? Whatever, the point is, in Sister Location, the Remnant that we see is possessed metal that has been melted down. When you hear Remnant, just think metallic soul juice, I guess. But what do we know for certain about the Seabear's bunker and Afton's experiments? Well, in one of FNAF 6 endings, we are given the blueprints for the scooper, and we are told that it holds Remnant and is likely used to extract Remnant from the Funtime animatronics when they are scooped, as we see in Sister Location. Before anyone says that it's a Remnant injector because of what happens to Michael, while we know it did function at least partially as an injector, it doesn't seem to be its only function. As for Michael, the blueprints we see in FNAF 6 says that there must be a trace amounts of Remnant on the tip of the scooper at all times. So Michael most likely survived because of the small portion of Remnant on the end of the scooper, not because he was literally injected with it. Moving on, we also know that the FNAF 4 nighttime gameplay house is part of the bunker. Not only do we see the layout of the FNAF 4 bedroom and plush trap room on the breaker room map, but we can also see cameras inside of the room itself on the private room monitors after typing in the code 1983. I'm sure you all know this. I mean, the Fredbear plush is literally right next to it. The funny part is, this stuff isn't even the most damning evidence we have. In the original Help Wanted, we didn't get a VR version of the base game FNAF 4 Nights, however we did get a lot of FNAF 4 themed minigames. And interestingly, they have plenty of connections to Sister Location. Funtime Freddy got his very own Night Terrors level in the FNAF 4 house, Baby got her own unique level in the FNAF 4 bedroom, and weirdly enough, in the plush trap level, there is a chance for the min-arenas to make an appearance, possibly being the 4 dots we see on the breaker room map. If the breaker room map simply meant nothing, then why FNAF 4 and Sister Location being so closely tied together as recently as Help Wanted? A somehow even more interesting detail is that, returning to the plush trap level and looking up, you'll notice something strange. These top areas of the room look almost wooden, as if maybe this room isn't a real room at all. This room is a set. It's not a real hallway. The FNAF 4 house isn't a real house. It's a set, all in Afton's bunker. So, Seabears and the FNAF 4 bedroom are both in the Sister Location bunker. I mean, this bunker is massive, that makes a lot of sense. In fact, if we look at the colouring of this map, the FNAF 4 areas are greyed out, which could possibly mean that they're above or below the Sister Location level of the bunker. If this bunker was in fact made from the tunnels under Murray's Costume Manor after Afton bought the land, then that's very possible. There are multiple levels to that location's basement, and I really just don't want to talk about that today. However, all of this does leave leave us with quite a big question. If Afton was using the bunker to simply rent out the fun times and collect Remnant, then what is all of this extra space for? The FNAF 4 bedroom? The private room? What was their purpose? Why are they connected to circus babies? I guess you could argue that the kids who were in these rooms could have been kidnapped by the fun times and put in here, but not only does that not really connect to the Scooper or any of the Remnant experiments, it also just doesn't tell us what the rooms themselves are even for. So what are they for? Well, the Tales book Aditophobia seems to suggest that the FNAF 4 facility is a sort of fear experiment, using hallucinogenic gas to cause the nightmares in FNAF 4. Probably the same gas we see here. And while this is a good answer, and is, official, not only is this book confirmed to not be in continuity with the games as of Secret of the Mimic, but it still doesn't exactly tell us what the rooms were for. Fear experiments? What does that entail? What does that even mean? How does that benefit Afton, and why is it connected to the Remnant experiments? Well, to answer that, we need to look at Fazbear's Fright. Yes, the other book series, I promise this is important. From as early as To Be Beautiful, we are shown that Remnant exists in this universe. In this story in particular, it is used as a pendant that the antagonist Eleanor uses. Through this entire book series, there is a heavy focus on Remnant and its properties. While not being entirely one-to-one with the games, the book's version of Remnant is very, very similar to Remnant in the games. However, Remnant is only one of two substances that these books focuses on. The books is actually where we're first introduced to a completely new concept, with similar properties to Remnant, agony. Human emotions are powerful, especially agony. In the FNAF universe, if a tragedy occurs, then it's possible that the agony of that event can linger and attach itself to objects in order to essentially haunt them without a spirit being present. We know that agony, or something equivalent to it, likely exists in the games. It's the cause of the posters changing in FNAF 1, these weird black stains around the buildings in the original games. It's probably what created the shadow animatronics. It's almost certainly the dark remnant we see in FNAF Special Delivery, and also maybe the reason that M2 is so aggressive in Secret of the Mimic. So how is agony important to Sister Location? Well, I don't think Afton was just using the bunker to research and harvest Remnant. No, I think that Afton was also experimenting with agony. Let me explain. Going back to Ditophobia, it's possible that our player character has canonically lost a night. We know we probably play as Michael in FNAF 4, but in the story Ditophobia, our main character is a boy named Rory. And well, during one of these nights, Rory is attacked by the nightmare animatronics, and as soon as he is, he wakes up. Very similar to a real dream, where a scare like that could pump your body with enough adrenaline to force your body awake. However, we know that while they're not entirely real, the nighttime segments aren't entirely a dream either. They are heavily influenced by the gas. Even the animatronics are real in a way, being mannequins on tracks. While Rory isn't literally dying, his brain is being subjected to these night terrors every single night, almost all of which ending in a death. Afton is essentially forcing this kid through an endless death simulator. Surely this amount of sheer torment for the several years Rory has been there would gather a lot of heavy negative emotions, namely agony. We know that the books aren't canon, but they do have a lot of connections and similarities. Like the FNAF 6 Fire being in Fazbear Fright, Susie getting her own story Coming Home, Mike being in the story You're the Band, and of course Andrew's obvious similarities to the Vengeful Spirit and Ultimate Custom Night. So even if the events in the games aren't exactly the same as their book counterparts, similar events and concepts existing in the games make sense, like how FNAF AR's Dark Remnant could easily be the game's version of Agony. Regardless of what it may be called in the games, I do think that the FNAF 4 facility is essentially an agony farm. It makes perfect sense. It gives an actual reason for the FNAF 4 location being part of the Seabear's bunker. It's yet another experiment being run by Afton, like the Remnant experiments. But that leaves us with a question. And quite an important one at that. Why was Afton experimenting with agony? In fact, why are any of these experiments being conducted at all? These two experiments happening in the same connected facility implies that these two experiments themselves are connected in some way. They're being conducted in the same facility with similar conditions, so they must have a common goal. Besides the novels and games describing it as molten metal, most of the time, most places in the series seem to imply that Remnant can heal a person and potentially even grant them eternal life. And well, yeah, I guess I can see this as William's motivation. It has been the most popular theory for his motivation for a reason. However, I'm not entirely sure that that's the case anymore. I mean, consider the private room. This room is here to monitor the FNAF 4 bedroom, we know that. But there's two details that make me hesitate in believing the Afton immortality motivation. And those details are the keypad code and the presence of the Fredbear plush. These two details being in the literal observation room of the FNAF 4 experiments makes me think that the big bite in 1983 was the motivation for these experiments. No, don't click off. Listen, I'm not trying to say that Afton killed the people and made the fun times to avenge the crying child or something. Believe me, we are not going into will care territory. Never again. No, what I'm saying is that this facility, this Agony farm, is directly linked to the crying child and his death. But how? Besides the FNAF 4 bedroom, obviously. Well, as you may recall, Scott has gone on record to say that he tries to use the new FNAF games to answer lingering questions from the past games. And well, one mystery from FNAF 4 has been largely unanswered for a long time. Crying child's final moments. I will put you back together. Just quickly before I explain why this is important, what does it mean to put someone back together? Well, the shortest and easiest way I can explain it is that it likely means putting the parts of the person's soul or consciousness back together. We see this with Elizabeth in Sister Location, where, upon the fun times combining into Ennard, Mike says,
"And I found her. I put her back together, just like you asked me to."
Likely because her remnant was split across all of the fun times. We also see this with Andrew in the books, where his consciousness is split into different Fazbear products after his and Afton's agony explode in a Fazbear distribution center, where Andrew says he wanted to be everywhere. Not to self-promote, but I have an entire short on the subject that I will link up in that corner in case you want to check it out. But basically, this links to a theory called Shatter Victim. The theory that, upon his death, Crying Child's consciousness was split up, or shattered. Getting back on topic, what does this mean for today's theory? Well, I don't think it's a coincidence that the game released directly after FNAF 4 and FNAF World, FNAF World being a game that, canon or not, is directly tied to FNAF 4, not only mentions the phrase, "I will put you back together," but literally has cameras to the FNAF 4 bedroom with Dave's Fredbear plush right next to it. To me, this seems to indicate that whatever is going on in Sister Location, something that is happening in this bunker, is a direct continuation of FNAF 4's ending, and I think that said continuation lies in this private room Easter egg. If what I've said so far is correct, and Afton truly was experimenting with both Remnant and Agony in this bunker, then the private room Easter egg, to me, is trying to tell us that the reason Afton is experimenting with these substances is to find out how to put the crying child back together. Again, I by no means think that Afton gave a shit about this kid. If anything, Afton probably saw this as a potential experiment, a challenge. His business reputation was shattered, and now his son, one of his assets, is dead. If Afton was to repair the damage done to his perfect family man exterior, he has to bring his child back. He has to put him back together. In fact, I think I can take this a step further. We know for a fact that Michael Afton has been put through the FNAF 4 experiments. Mike draws Nightmare Fredbear in the logbook, and we can hear one of Ralph's phone calls from FNAF 1, which wasn't even recorded until the early 90s at the latest. And so we are clearly playing as Mike. Well, if the FNAF 4 experiments, and by extension the entire Sister Location bunker, were made right after the crying child's death, then who would be the perfect first subject for these experiments? How about Afton's other kid, the person directly responsible for Dave's death, Mike? FNAF 4's gameplay is Mike reliving his time in the nightmare chambers. He was the first test subject for Afton's experiments, which I know isn't really an original idea anymore, but still. I mean, hey, maybe Rytoast is right. Maybe Mike's only talent really is FNAF gameplay. Regardless, if Afton's motivation was indeed Dave's death, then it adds more context to Mike's monologue in Sister Location. Afton told him to put Elizabeth back together, showing that Afton, by the time of Sister Location, knows how to put someone back together. His experiments have concluded. He has his answer. While I know that this reasoning for Afton wanting to bring him back isn't the strongest, I think that the bunker being created so Afton can put his son back together makes perfect sense. So, if Afton is experimenting with Remnant and Agony to try and bring Dave back, and by the time of Sister Location Afton's experiments are concluded, then what happened to the crying child? Why have the FNAF 4 experiments seemingly stopped, but the fun times are still collecting Remnant? Well, easy. FNAF World is what puts him back together and he is set free. He is able to move on, and maybe with help from some other spirits like the puppet, he could maybe even get his happiest day. That's if you believe he's the happiest day receiver. I don't have time to get into that, to be honest. With his agony all in one place and his consciousness put back together, he can finally move on the same way Andrew did in Frights. And if that, and everything else I've said so far, still isn't enough to convince you William put him back together, how about this string of text found in one of the FNAF World teasers that literally says, "He put him back together," a direct continuation of the Fredbear plush's line at the end of FNAF 4. Sorry for the random jump in audio quality, I finally got a microphone, but I'm a little annoyed because this is my second time trying to record this part part of the script. My computer crashed, like, as soon as I finished it, and I lost everything. So, this is me trying again. Never mind, I'm doing it a third time, I guess, because I just realised my microphone was unplugged. I can't do this, man. As for the Remnant experiments continuing, well, if Crying Child's agony is what Afton had to put back together, then it's likely that Afton discovered Remnant after he started the Agony experiments. When could this have happened? Well, the MCI. Maybe after killing the missing children, either as an attempt to shut down Freddy's, as I believe. Made a whole video on that, check it out here. Or as a way to further his experiments, he finds out that they have possessed the animatronics. Put yourself in Afton's shoes for a moment. He is experimenting with and studying agony, a substance he suspects to be the key to putting his son back together. But then upon committing the MCI, something that was intended to simply be a side quest of sorts to get back at Henry and shut down Freddy's, he discovers a new substance, one with many similar properties to agony, such as animating inanimate objects, sure, but with a few key differences. Remnant can not only heal someone almost instantaneously, but it can also bring people back from the dead. This is what I suspect started Afton's obsession with immortality. What started as a twisted research experiment to fix his dead son became something far darker: Afton's search for immortality. His son Dave was the initial goal, sure, but if William can understand how these substances work, especially Remnant, he could potentially live forever. A goal that I imagine William finds far more important than fixing his dead son. Narcissist William, let's go! Phew, so that was almost definitely a bit of a mess, and I'm sorry that it's becoming somewhat of a tradition on this channel, but I'd like to give a quick, more narrative recap of everything I've said in this video. But don't click off if you don't want to hear it, please just stick around and watch until the end, because I have a few channel updates after the recap. So yeah, plus I need the watch time. If you really don't want to hear it, there are timestamps in the description, so you can just skip if you'd like. Enjoy the recap. The year is 1983, and the crying child Dave, William's son, is killed at his birthday. A terrible accident, a prank that went too far. Later in the hospital, during his final moments, William makes a promise: I will put you back together. Using the tunnel system under what was previously MCM, Afton sets up the bunker. A bunker he created to find a way to fix his son, and potentially by witnessing weird behaviour from the Fredbear animatronic, or maybe Dave's Fredbear plush, Afton discovers agony, and believes it to be the key to putting his son back together. He makes the FNAF 4 chambers based on David Murray's room using hallucinogenic gas, and throws his oldest son Mike in the chambers in hopes of artificially manifesting agony. Later on, while this is happening in 1985, Afton lures and kills 5 children in Freddy's safe room, and stuffs the bodies into the animatronics in order to shut down Freddy's. However, in doing so, he discovers that the animatronics are now possessed. This is where he discovers Remnant, and starts to include it in his research. However, he discovers that Remnant is somehow much more powerful than Agony. It has healing properties and could potentially bring someone back to life. If he were able to better understand this substance, maybe he could unlock immortality. With a new goal in mind, Afton concludes his Agony experiments. The pieces are in place for him. Dave is put back together through the events of FNAF World, orchestrated by Afton, and he is finally set free. Now Afton can finally focus on his search for immortality. He builds the Phantom animatronics to capture children to use for Remnant, as unlike with Agony, Afton can't just throw Mike into a room to generate it for him. However, shortly after, his daughter Elizabeth, as we know, dies to one of these animatronics. But Afton doesn't care. He has more important things to focus his time on, and so he simply resumes his experiments. By the time of Sister Location, Afton has a thorough understanding of both Remnant and Agony, and so he sends Mike down to the Sister Location bunker in order to gather Elizabeth's Remnant together in one place and put her back together. Once this is done, Michael gets scooped, the fun times escape into the sewers, and Afton dies in a back room somewhere, I don't know. Phew. Finally, this video is done. That should be it. I don't think I've missed anything. Fredbear's is also on the map, next to the Remnant and Agony experiments. Oh, don't tell me. Oh no! So, what do you think? I know that this theory probably has holes and a lot of people are going to disagree, but for the most part I really like this theory. It explains how Afton discovers Remnant, it connects FNAF 4 to Sister Location very well, and it finally explains what the FNAF 4 location was even for. If you do disagree, make sure to comment it down below because I read every single one, but keep it polite because a friendly discussion is a successful one. Yes, I kinda stole that from Gibby. I also want to thank you, the viewers, for all of the overwhelming support I've been getting recently. I mean it when I say I read every comment. you guys seem to really enjoy the content I'm making, and I hope I can continue to make you guys happy with hopefully higher quality videos. I apologize for this video for taking a while to come out. I wanted to make up for the really short and quite frankly lazy last video I made, and I hope that this does make up for it. Like I said, I do have a microphone now. That's what you're hearing. I have a real microphone. It's still not the greatest, but it's better than what I had, so the audio quality in the next few videos should be a lot better. I do have a few FNAF theories I have in mind. I'm just not really sure which one I'm gonna make next. Maybe a Golden Freddy video? Midnight Motorist? Maybe? I don't know. Whatever I end up deciding, I hope you enjoy it. Make sure to check out the Discord server I made recently for more updates on videos. It's not really active, but we're getting there. Check out the merch on the Fourth Wall store if you haven't already. There's not a lot there, but if you want to further support the channel, the option is there. Subscribe only if you think I earned it. Buzzwords, 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 and I will see you at some point, I'm sure. Bye for now.